I am alive. I flow through the meadows and carve my own path. I am mighty. I gush down steep slopes, building icy cascades with my water. I am the Bear River, and the proposal to build Centennial Dam puts me at your mercy. I am loved by many. I sustain life flowing from faucets for thousands of people. My water is used for agriculture and electricity. In summer, I am kept alive thanks to huge diversions of water from the Yuba River. More than 129 billion gallons of Yuba water are sent down the Drum Canal every year. To visualize that, imagine a cube of ice the size of a football field, but it would be 56 miles tall. This water will never again kiss the banks of the Yuba River. And thus, the fates of the Bear and Yuba rivers are bound together. During summer, when the South Fork of the Yuba River is barely flowing at about 40 cubic feet per second, the Drum Canal removes Yuba water at 10 times that rate upstream. I am the Bear River, but I am mostly made of Yuba water, which will be sold to customers down the line. Yuba water that began at Donner Summit likely finds the Drum Canal and passes into Rollins Reservoir. After Rollins, I am then free for an exhilarating 6 miles. These 6 miles would lie at the bottom of Centennial Reservoir. Here I carry excited whitewater paddlers through beautiful green canyons. I bring gold for locals and tourists to make a withdrawal at my banks. Fishermen, hikers, bird watchers, and many more come here to admire my wildness. I am stopped again in Combi Reservoir. Is this the end? Far from it. I then flow to Camp Far West Reservoir, holding another 34 billion gallons if it is full. Most of my water has been sold before reaching this reservoir. Below here, much of my water is used to grow rice. Some of my water will continue down the lower Bear River, passing through the Sacramento Delta, and then under the Golden Gate Bridge before I'm back in the Pacific Ocean.
These rivers have spoken to me my entire life. I am from these hills, and like you, I love these rivers. I could not believe my eyes when I saw that NID, the Nevada Irrigation District, had plans to build Centennial Reservoir on this celebrated stretch of Bear River. This is where my best friends and I learned to kayak 15 years ago. I flipped my boat right here, and I learned a deep respect for the river. This place is a gem in our community. I am the third generation of my family to call these watersheds home. As a filmmaker, I felt compelled to speak on behalf of Bear River. But filmmaking costs money and time, and I was hesitant at first. Furthermore, I love NID. I still do. I've traveled around the world and still have never tasted water finer than this. They provide water to my mom and keep her home safe from fire, and that means a lot to me. But then I went to NID's public meeting last spring. I saw this dam for what it is. Dozens of my fellow citizens courageously stepped up to the microphone. They were afraid for their safety, for losing their heritage sites, recreation, the river, income from tourism, and afraid of losing their homes. I knew then that I had to make this movie, and I'm doing it for them. I had crossed a threshold, and there was no turning back. Americans removed one dam every 6 days on average during 2015. So there must be good reasons to take a careful look at dams and reservoirs. I think our community needs to decide whether or not we build the dam. After all, we will pay for it in more ways than one. In this film, let's ask 3 questions. Would the dam solve the problem? What are the costs? And what would be the lasting effects? Question number 1. Would the dam even solve the problems? The 2 greatest water problems that we face are decreasing supply and greater demand. NID has filed a request to remove 72 billion gallons of water from the Bear River, or a football field 31 miles tall. That's a lot of water. NID claims Centennial will help us through climate change because snowpack is decreasing. But reservoirs don't make water, they simply catch it if there is extra. We don't even fill the existing Bear River reservoirs 100% of the time. So how much extra water is there to catch? Only 5 times in the last 18 years has there been enough extra water to fill NID's request. According to a scientific paper released by the USDA and US Forest Service, future precipitation is projected to decrease. This means less water, and a greater likelihood of being unable to even fill the existing Bear River reservoirs. California's growing population of 39 million people use more than 7 billion gallons of water per day. Regardless of whether precipitation stays the same or decreases, it is literally impossible to grow population forever. So why did they ask for 10 times that amount of water? Is there a plan to develop new housing for 10 times more customers? Is NID planning to sell the water outside of our district? Do we want more Yuba water sold to fuel more urban sprawl? NID may be forced to guarantee that water supply even during times of shortage. Where will NID turn when they need more water? Would they attempt to increase diversions from the Yuba River? In a shortage, they may be obligated to. This is the danger of selling new municipal water contracts to fuel the urban sprawl from Sacramento. Furthermore, Centennial Dam would be located above Camp Far West Reservoir, which is owned by South Sutter Water District. They sell water to irrigate 43,000 acres of farmland. If Centennial were built and NID removed 72 billion gallons of the Bear River, it is highly likely that less water would go to Camp Far West Reservoir, therefore threatening those farmers. South Sutter Water District has filed a protest against Centennial Dam for this reason. This diversion flows to thousands of acres of farmland, and the extra water pours over this wall back into the lower Bear River. There would have been no extra water flowing over that wall into the lower Bear River 13 of the last 18 years if NID had removed 72 billion gallons. Question number 2. What are the costs of Centennial? Centennial Reservoir is designed to rise above Bear River 250 feet, but as it empties throughout the year, the surface could lower 120 feet from the upper rim. These images of Oroville Reservoir show you what Centennial could become: a barren hillside more than 10 stories tall. Would you want to buy this lakefront property? This would inundate prime habitat for bobcats, bears, birds, and countless other species. These barren walls are essentially an ecological wasteland, and the lake would substantially constrict animal migration corridors. Reducing the amount of water flowing down the lower Bear River would deteriorate an area designated as critical habitat by the National Marine Fishery Service, further endangering steelhead, sturgeon, and salmon. Centennial would flood the graves of Native Americans dating back thousands of years. There are sacred places that are still in use today by the Nishinan people in an unbroken chain of rituals carried on for countless generations. Perhaps the greatest burden would be placed on our fellow citizens, the 25 families who would lose their home. While I have lost sleep at night because of this project, I'm sure it is nothing compared to the suffering of our fellow citizens whose families would be displaced. NID publicly states they have already purchased some homes, but they could resort to eminent domain in the future to secure the rest. Centennial would flood sections of public lands owned by all of us and managed by the Bureau of Land Management. The local BLM officials are opposed to giving up that land, so NID is going through Congress to obtain it. Unfortunately, NID would also be able to circumvent the regulations and environmental protections that were just set in place after 7 years of negotiations with federal and local agencies. NID would also have to acquire land in Placer County, which is out of their jurisdiction. Reservoirs lose approximately 5 to 16% of their water annually through evaporation. Already the existing dams on the Bear River may be losing about 4 billion gallons of water annually. For perspective, you could fill more than 6,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools with that evaporated water. Another reservoir means more evaporation. Reservoirs are also good at catching sediment. Old reservoirs become inefficient and must be dredged to return to peak performance. It's part of the deal. Our Sierra Nevada rivers are still suffering from the region's long gold mining history. During the gold rush, roughly 8 to 9 million pounds of mercury were released into the environment, and it is still here, trapped in the reservoirs, entering the food chain, poisoning the fish, and anyone else who eats them. NID's customers will be paying back a debt costing hundreds of millions of dollars, with interest decades into the future. It is uncertain where the money will come from and who is investing these hundreds of millions into this project. If NID didn't pay back the loan, could these outside investors obtain ownership of the dam? Question number 3. What legacy would Centennial leave? Centennial Reservoir would worsen global climate change. We now know reservoirs release methane, a gas 35 times more effective at warming the planet than carbon dioxide. Reservoirs around the planet release so much methane, it is equivalent to roughly 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually. We've discussed measurable losses, but what about the immeasurable ones? I learned to kayak on this stretch of river, and if I have a kid, I would want to teach him or her to kayak there too. We love the wildness of this place we call home. How many of these gems do we really want to lose? Americans are removing dams at a rate of 1 every 6 days on average, but it's not cheap. If we want to remove this dam in the future, how many millions would that cost us? Centennial Dam just doesn't sound like a good idea, especially if there are better solutions for securing our water supply. Let's explore some better solutions. If we dredge the existing reservoirs, we would open up immense amounts of new water storage. If we also seal up sections of the 460 miles of ditches and canals, we would save an incredible amount of water. What if NID, like Roseville, invested in infrastructure to inject water underneath Lincoln, storing water in the aquifer, and then removing the water when demand increases. We are already rich in water. More than 50 inches of precipitation fall in Nevada County every year, on average. A rooftop the size of 1,800 square feet could catch more than 56,000 gallons of rainwater most years. This is about 280 days of total water use. If, instead of an expensive dam, what if we invested in water harvesting? The future development of Lincoln is currently a clean slate, and we could build every one of those new homes with infrastructure to harvest their rainwater. Installing a water harvesting system is very cost-effective when the house is initially built. No single solution is a panacea, but if we combine these alternatives, we would be investing in a future with more security of resources and finances. It seems there are plenty of innovative ways to manage our water without building another big, expensive dam or removing 72 billion gallons of the Bear River. I don't think we need to drown another 6 miles of this precious valley or a river that has already been so compromised. We don't need to demolish the homes of our citizens or flood the graves of past native residents. We don't need to worsen climate change or put more toxic mercury into our fish or our families. We don't need to threaten the Yuba River. Let's not be angry towards NID for considering Centennial Dam. Let us be sympathetic, because sometimes the hardest and right decision is turning back before it's too late. The weight of this project rests on NID's shoulders, so let's wish them the strength and wisdom required. NID needs to hear from you. We only have to convince 3 of the 5 NID directors, and this whole dam problem goes away. We can do that. We might have to get every person in the Gold Country talking about this, but we can do that too. If we care, then let's act. Educate yourself and others on the facts. Support the organizations who are devoted to the cause. And most importantly, commit to your future generations, to the community, and to the river. This is not an end, but a beginning.
I am the Bear River, and I am proud of this community every time you keep a place wild and protected. It's time to come together and stand up for the ideals you hold most dear. Don't underestimate yourself, and don't overestimate the opposition. Now is the time for each of you to do whatever it takes to convince NID that Centennial Dam must be stopped and the rivers must be protected.
For no worries, worries and troubles come around. Said I don't look for no worries, worries and troubles come around. We'll keep on turning, gotta keep my feet on the ground. Nobody saw me crying, nobody knows the way I feel. Said nobody saw me crying, nobody knows the way I feel. Said the way I love that woman is bound to get me killed.